So, how to describe the Gantz anime? Gantz is beautiful nonsense. Gantz is complete tonal chaos and narrative disorder. Gantz is an awful anime that was actually kind of ahead of its time. And I'm sure as you hear me say that, you immediately feel some sort of confusion. But let me explain. When I sit back and watch some of the more popular anime of today, like Chainsaw Man, Tokyo Revengers, Zom 100, pretty much any isekai, I see a story about a hapless and horny loser who, at their lowest moment, is suddenly thrust into a dangerous and otherworldly situation in which they now get a chance to be the big hero that they always wanted to be. And of course, now they actually get a chance to touch a girl for the first time in their life.
Dude, and then you will have sex! You will be having sex! Sex!
That is more or less the story of Gantz and its main character, Kurono. Kurono is a whiny, entitled coward who also happens to hate everything and everyone that isn't a big pair of bouncing titties. Most of his worst traits are kept on the inside and relegated to internal dialogue. This is how most real people are in society anyway. We think horrible things about others, but we very rarely express them out loud. In that way, Kurono is like a walking embodiment or personification of passive aggressiveness. It's this same passive-aggressive behavior that leads to Kurono generally being a pushover who just allows other people to do as they please around him. And it also leads to his deep feelings of loneliness, depression, and seclusion from society. He acts like other people are the problem, but deep down, he is often the problem. Kurono's character archetype is not unique in fiction or in reality, but the extremeness of just how much of a bitch-ass, hating-ass, pussy-ass motherfucker that Kurono actually is actually what makes him stand out to me. Kurono is a shit person, but that's also what makes him an interesting main character. And when it comes to interesting characters, Gantz actually has a good amount of them. The issue is that yeah, they all die. Everybody dies in this show. And it's not like Akame got killed where the same thing happens, but the audience is actually given ample time to become invested in their stories and arcs before they kick the bucket. No, Gantz characters die like 6 minutes after they get introduced. Gantz's narrative moves incredibly fast for an anime that was released in 2004. Let's not forget that this was the era when the never-ending shonen like Naruto, Bleach, and One Piece were rising to the top of the weeb world. An anime that starts and finishes an entire arc in just 4 episodes was almost unheard of at this time. Gantz is one of those pieces of art that really sticks with you, but not because it was so good that you always cherish the impact it made on you after experiencing it, but more like a strange recurring fever dream that you can never be 100% sure if it actually happened or not. The first time I saw Gantz was when my casual anime fan dad watched it back in the mid-2000s. I was so confused about what I was watching that I always thought for years that it was Ghost in the Shell, since that was one of the other anime that my dad actually watched, and they have a very similar art style. I didn't find out that the anime about the black ball in the hotel room that makes dead people kill strange aliens with laser guns for fun was called Gantz until like my mid-20s. But Gantz as a concept is amazing. Actually, it's one of my favorite ideas for a story ever. It has a very Squid Game, Hunger Games, Battle Royale, Dead Man Wonderland, Alice in Borderlands type of vibe to it. The whole random strangers pitted against each other in a life or death battle genre has really taken off in the last decade or so, and just to remind you, the Gantz anime released in 2004. Yeah, ahead of its goddamn time. The concept is great. It's the execution that's a little lacking. And as much as I'm calling it awful, Gantz was actually able to pull off some decent character growth and interesting visual storytelling moments. I especially love the full circle moment of Kurono playing the background and laughing at all the newcomers to the game like the original Brat did in the start of the show. Good Gantz. Good. It's more the terrible moment-to-moment pacing of each scene and endless stream of nonsensical bullshit that stops Gantz from reaching its true potential. The dialogue is mostly crude and stunted as hell. The animation is pretty shoddy in a lot of action sequences, but admittedly does have an interesting look and feel to it. Most of the characters besides Kurono and maybe Kato are either one-dimensional or just die too quick to be relevant, and the story relies way too heavily on both hypersexualization and shock value to keep you watching. The music is actually kind of good though. The opening sounds like it could have been on Tony Hawk Project Underground Far East Edition or something. Definitely of its era, but a lot of the background tunes are fittingly chilling and ambient for the mood that the show creates. Oh, and everything narratively goes completely off the rails after like the first half of season 1. So much so that I could tell without doing any prior research that it had to be some kind of anime-only bullshit and didn't follow the original manga at all. And speaking of the original manga, it seems like from all accounts that the Gantz manga is really good, and it capitalizes on all of the potential that the core concept held. Unfortunately for me no read no good, so I'll probably never know just how great the true story of Gantz actually is. But what I do know is that despite the anime's many shortcomings, it still managed to leave an indelible mark on me as a viewer. I can't even think of how many times I've been watching a show or movie or anime or anything like that and said to myself, oh, this is kind of like that one show Gantz. And sure, whatever I was watching was probably way better than Gantz was, but the fact that so many high quality shows have similarities to Gantz proves that Gantz did have something special. I don't know. Gantz might have been awful, but maybe, just maybe, might have just been a little ahead of its time.